Okay, everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to Tomcat's Corner here. Coming down to the last few videos that I'll be doing here for our Fifth Fleet Scenario 12, the Indian Ocean War. I'm going to try and cram a lot into this video as we're getting down to smaller actions, smaller action segments, I should say, and uh, and truly, with the expenditure of the assets that we have in the game so far, it's just getting down to limited opportunities here. So we'll move a lot quicker. I'd like to apologize. I haven't done a video in a couple weeks for those that have been paying attention or have any interest. Just been busy. Life is, as we all know, real life gets the majority of our time here. So anyway, we pick up with our battle actually with game turn 13. This what we're looking at here, I should say, is the end of game 13. Obviously, we went through all 6 action segments and set up for the following turn 14. But let's see what happened in 13, and then we'll see, and then we'll continue from there. First of all, we with the new day, game turn 13, starting the new day, we have the random events as follows. First of all, weather changed. Squalls broke out in India, Sumatra, the North Arabian Sea Zone, the Maldives, and Saudi Arabia. The Allies had a command failure loss in the Persian Gulf, Saudi Arabia zone, and the Gulf of Oman. So basically, once more, my aircraft up in the Persian Gulf arena are shut down for the day, which will limit my combat ability to strike with aircraft that I had gotten into position for that very purpose, primarily bringing up the task forces here. If we go over to the U.S., for Abu Dhabi, I had brought in my F-111s, long-range bombers, to be able to hit his ships that were down in the North Arabian Sea Zone, Gulf of Oman, and Sumatra. So they were relegated to cap duty. As you can see, all the aircraft for the turn are all up in combat air support. Nothing to use them for except that. Command failure allows that aircraft can only fly in that function, and also that they can't assist each other. So that's a unique thing where if there's a crossover of combat air patrols, and this region is heavy with that for the Allied forces, still you can only use the aircraft that are available to that individual combat air patrol. So that will give him unrestricted combat ability for his own bombers out of Iran here into the Gulf of Oman and into Sumatra. We saw last video where he tried a very, very good attack to peg down the Lincoln, and it could have caused me a lot of problems with that attack. Fortunately for me, he rolled a 9, as we remember, or a 0. Either way, it doesn't matter. I don't remember the specific roll. I believe it was a 9. But this in this game, when you roll a 9 on a air-to-surface missile attack by aircraft, actually I should say by any surface-to-surface missile kind of combat, if you roll a 0 or 9, the defender gets to choose what the target is, and I fortunately had him put all 100 points of his SSM strike against against a combat supply vessel, which in the end he didn't even hit because of the negative modifiers to the attack. So I was lucky. At the end of this turn, as you can see, though, I have moved Lincoln safely out of his combat air patrol window over Ras Karma, which gave him an ingress into my Tomcat's attack, and would have given him the added air support to have his bombers be supported by the interceptors off Roskarma. So that's a good thing. You also notice here that I have effectively pulled the Lincoln away from his submarines. Don't have a local detection on me, which is great. Once I have disappeared, it makes these subs, although quite dangerous, a lot more easier to deal with because I'm not having torpedoes shot at me constantly. This is one of the things that you'll see over the next series of turns here is through each game turn, the way the activations fall. Scott is now pressed to catch up to the Lincoln, and although he gets his subs up to me most rounds, gets me in a position of detection, I hold off on moving my surface units till last, because even though he catches up to me, he doesn't know where I'm at, can't fire on me. So I end up moving my surface units last, which of course does put a local detection marker on me. But as you know, if you play this game, at the end of each action segment, there is local detection removal phase. So as long as my ships get far enough away from his submarines that I'm not in a local detection range, that marker goes away. So the each new turn starts without him knowing where my ships are. So this basically became a race now for the West Indian Ocean for me, because I need to get down here to 10, 28, 29, 30, and so forth to get these last few tankers, these full tankers, out to sea. Once they're out to sea, they're points for me as a game objective. So the Sumatra zone has kind of calmed down a little bit in terms of the stress that was being built up from all of his submarines in close proximity to my ships, and making a lot of problems for me. As you can see, our submarines are all in close contact, but no one has any kind of solid detection on any other. So we move over here to the Gulf of Oman. As I was showing in the previous video, my task forces out of Persian Gulf, which had been up there for some time defending the ships that had been coming up to the empty tankers that had been coming up to the Persian Gulf, are now available to be used as offensive assets. Task Force 1 is heavily laden with a lot of surface-to-surface missile attackers. Task Group 2 is a good group of frigates, and then Task Group 5 is more heavy-duty surface-to-surface missile combatants. And I got this strategic detection on the Indian Task Group 4, which is nothing much left here. It was the Virat, or the Vikrant, one of them. In fact, you look at both of his task groups and forces, and you're going to see that in this game turn, he had a lot of bad luck. We'll go down. But the bottom line is Task Group 4 now has been eliminated. I think the carrier was sunk in the last video here. This Task Group 4 is not much of a threat anymore. It's certainly want to clear those potential ships off of the map, get the points, and also limit him in his offensive ability with whatever was left there as far as surface-to-surface missile attackers. 22 points of surface-to-surface missile strength there. So that's viable. It's something you can use to punch a hole in a ship. So better to kill him. So anyway, he's got a few subs left around here of the Indian Navy, and then just this remnant of a task force. So good things going on in the north, or as I say every time, if we oriented this map correctly, in the western part of this engagement. So let's go down south here. We'll go to Sumatra. And realistically, I'm going to pretty much be ignoring this part of the map from here on out. There's not much left until Scott decides to move his bombers out of Qamran and get them into a position where he can use them for better effect in another airbase. The only thing that's really happening down here is his submarines continue to try to find and kill the Kakra, which is the Indonesian diesel boat, to no one's benefit here. We're trading dice rolls and nothing's really coming. So we look over here to the Chagos Archipelago and the Sri Lanka zone, because these are key. If you remember last turn, Task Force 1 and 4 of the Soviet and the Indian Navy had left the Sumatra zone, headed north. They took care of the Ranger and her task group, and he started moving his ships north. So he got up here to Sri Lanka, and if you would remember from the last game session, or video I should say, he had carriers here which both have combat aircraft on them, one being on the Indian Navy a Sea Harrier, and the Yak-38's Forgers off the Kiev, plus some Helixes for and Sea Kings for air early warning defense. So the Kiev and the Vikrant, which was here, were chugging north there through Sri Lanka, and I decided that I was going to make an attack in this turn. Don't have a log file, so I can't visually display it to you guys, so I apologize about that. We were moving quick through these rounds now and doing a lot of face-to-face gaming because it was the holidays. And out of Diego Garcia, I launched my Australian F-111s along with the B-52 and my 2 air reconnaissance P-3 Orions. All in all, at a range of 2 on these aircraft bomber, I have a surface-to-surface missile strength of 92, right? 16 plus 16 is 32, plus the 60 on the B-52 for 90 points. Not going to worry about bombing. We're going to hit these suckers with some surface or air-to-surface missiles. So, excuse me. The bottom line, just to re-illustrate it, I flew here. And actually, we flew here. So we were at a 2 range to the Vikrant to do a surface-to-surface missile strike, air-to-surface missile strike, I should say, on the Vikrant. His 2 combat air patrols were eligible to engage me. Okay, so with the F-111 as a fighter, we have as an interceptor role, we have a 6 air-to-air strength, and then of course we get 1 more from the B-52, which gave me a 7 air strength. And his, I got to go to the dead pile because that's where they are. His Yak and his, as you see here at the end here on the end, the Yak Forger had a 3 air strength, and his Sea Harrier had 3 for a total of 6. But as you know, if you play the game obviously, the further you go away from your carrier, the harder it is for your aircraft to have any potential strength. So at a 2 range here, 1, 2 hexes. Okay, so even at 2 hexes, if we look at 2 hexes, his non-US air early warning unit in cap mission. That's the column we need because he had air early warning units in both of them. So 2 hexes, he still had full strength. So 6 points to my 7. All right. He was the aggressor, the attacker. So in combat air patrol, the rounding always falls to the defender. So because I have 1 point higher than him, I actually have a 1-to-2 ratio against him. So what we did is he made his attack roll and he got an RTB, which is cool. Okay, I think it was an RTB and a kill, because it was. Yes, it was. I got a RTB and a 2-point hit. So basically, if we look at the air-to-air combat chart on 1 to 2, he rolled a 2R, because I got a 2-step and an R, return to base, and the left side of the hashtag there is the attacker. So I decided that I wanted to knock the Yak Forger. I killed the Yak Forger, so it went to the dead pile. His Sea Harrier, and actually the Sea Harrier that's in the dead pile isn't the Sea Harrier that came off the Vikrant. That was the one off of the Virat. But the Sea Harrier then was RTB'd, which removed all his air defense, and I then opened up with a 92-point attack, and I dumped the bulk of it on the Indian aircraft carrier. 90 points, I think, or whatever the logical amount here would be on the combat result table. So at 92, I probably did 90, and then 2 points on the ship right under it to eliminate that ship's ability to bring in its close air defense. Didn't care about the second ship. I wanted the carrier, and boom, we got it, obviously, because it's also in the dead pile. If we look here under carriers, the Virat, the Vikrant, all dead. Okay, so with the death of that aircraft carrier, the Sea Harriers had nowhere to land. So using our rules as they are, we allow people to, or we allow each other to, if there's a base close enough that they can get to, pardon me, those aircraft can survive. And Nogombo right here was close enough for that Sea Harrier to return to. So we'll see here, his Harrier is now 3 turns out. Understand we're in game turn 13 right now, 3 turns away from availability per our house rule, and it's over Nogombo now landing and getting refueled and all that. But the bottom line is the Yak Forger was destroyed for Task Force 4, eliminating all air cover there. The aircraft carrier and the combat air patrol, or aircraft on the carrier of the Vikrant, was destroyed. So these 2 ships no longer have any defenses to hold me off from unrestricted air combat, bombardment, surface-to-surface missile strikes on them. It was a great turn. Scott was starting to get really bummed at this point with all of the decline in his capabilities there. So that was great. Down here in Chagos Archipelago, we continue on because the Enterprise is still trying to escape these submarines. Even though we've eliminated one of them, which was the Indian sub last time, it is a still trying to get north with those amphibious assault to amphibious assault vessels to Karachi in Pakistan. That's going to be big points for me. The Albany and the Miami have moved closer to help stave off these subs to help out with the Key West and the Sea Devil. I do have squalls in front of me. It's a little bit of a limit on capabilities and when you have squalls, but it's nothing major. And of course, understand that this is the end of this turn here. So let me bring up the next map. I'll pause here for a second. Hold on. Right, this is game turn 14. All action segments 1 through 6, actually 1 through 5. The 6th action segment will be his aircraft, and I'm not sure what happens in the next game save with those. But we are in game turn 14 now. Again, the pursuit continues. He finally localizes the Enterprise group, and his subs are now engaging it. I do have a damage hit on the Tresca finally, starting to try and kill these things. I don't think there's much effect with any attacks on Task Group 4. Task Group 4 looks just as strong as it always has. No flipped counters, so in game turn 14, by finding Task Group 4, he was still unable to cause her any damage. Between the two maps, I can see Task Group 4 has moved south again. I don't, probably because the ball cache moved up to engage her. She's got a 22 strength. These other subs have an 8 and an 18 respectively, so maybe I was trying to move down and around them. A, because one's noisy, and B, because one with a 3 ASW strength doesn't really have much to do. In an 8 strength and torpedoes doesn't have much of a threat. So maybe I was trying to kind of move back and away from the ball cache and get into a position that he couldn't attack me with torpedoes. So I really can't, I don't have a definitive on that, but bottom line, that's what I'm going to go with. Over here in Sri Lanka, you can see that he has moved his ships under coastal air support. It basically keeps any desire for me to make an attack here. Although I might have used this 2255, I don't know, remember specifically the 2255 or 2256 to strike Task Force 4. There's no damages there, so maybe I didn't see it, or maybe I moved aircraft. I don't know. I should have done another SSM, air-to-surface missile attack on Task Group 4, because I still had an envelope here open. 2255 or 56 would have been an opportune place to fly to and hit those ships again with another 92 points of effect there. Don't know why I didn't. Maybe just missed it. As we can see here, the Lincoln continues to run away from his subs. He's also moved his subs north here. I don't specifically remember their purpose. Maybe he was attacked my submarines and then moved away because he's got local detection markers. But his subs have scattered, which is fine with me. I don't want to deal with that stuff anymore. Over here, you can see there is no more Indian task group. The task group has been eliminated down to just the Betwa. It's the last ship left for the Indian Navy in the North Arabian Sea zone here. Task Group 5, 1 and 2. Let's look at Task Group 5 a minute. It's 2 patrol craft, 60 points of surface-to-surface missile strength. Probably by the end of that turn tore into that task group, that Indian task group, and just killed the ships. There was only 3 left there anyway. My Pakistani subs continue to give chase to his Indian subs, but for the most part this has become a non-critical zone of the map as well. So let me load the next map and we'll see what continues here. But that's the end of game turn 14 through at least action segment 5. And he would have had aircraft left. And I think with the next load in, we'll see what he does with that aircraft. The next map will be the end of this game day. So let's bring up the next map. Okay, we continue through the day here in game turn 15. And this will be the end of game turn 15. And obviously game turn marker is on 16. So we'll probably see the random event set up for this turn as well. For the next game day, I should say. First of all, let's finalize game turn 15. We can see here that there's only 2 task groups left for me in the Gulf of Oman, or the South Arabian Sea zone, North Arabian Sea zone originally. The Saudi missile boats were destroyed. Presumably, that's where his aircraft spent their ordnance in the last segment of the last game turn, which kind of is a bummer. There's a couple of mistakes I make with these ships. I get them close enough to do some attacks on his vessels here, and realistically, those ships weren't a big enough threat to give him the points that I did. Granted, a set of PC craft, patrol craft are only 4 points total, VP points, but every bit that he can stack up against me that I've got to overcome something I got to work for, and I never should have. The Betwa and the remainder of, well, definitely wanted to kill the remainder of that Indian task group, but the Betwa there wasn't worth it to get close enough to lose those 2 patrol craft. Anyway, it's done. So we see by the end of game turn 15 that the Lincoln group now, we'll get to the strategic detection here in a minute, but the Lincoln group now has gotten into position to unload the remainder of her charges, which we haven't done yet because they are still, that will happen in game turn 16. Those last ships will be able to make it out to sea, and the Lincoln group can finally be what it is meant to be, and that is an offensive force. The only problem is the primary strength of this task group now is in its air and surface capabilities. Over this game, over this combat war here, he's done a great job at reducing my anti-surface warfare strength. I still think I've got like a 22 strength in this group, but that's great, but it's only 1 attack compared to his 3 attacks with all these subs of 20 and 30 strengths each. So he's got a lot more to attack me with in this part of the battle here. Again, my nuclear subs are tooling along, trying to keep up with his and keeping him to that bay there. 2 Soviet subs are gone here. The Tresca was sunk, and so was his noisy ship, which was the, let's look here, submarines. The Tresca was sunk, and his nuclear sub, the Irtish, was sunk. That was the noisy one down there. We also got the Krylenko up north. So killing subs finally. That's right, because he's only got 3 subs left. He had 4 in the last game image. Anyway, so let's look at what happens with the onset of game day 2, 3, 4, game day 6. In game turn 16 starts game day 6. The random events that happen where we got storms now in the Saudi Arabia zone, Persian Gulf, Bay of Bengal, and the Sri Lanka zone. And this great. Why? Why is, what's that do? It again eliminates my ability to launch aircraft out of the Persian Gulf. Storms render air bases inert. Also, we had command failure again in the West Indian Ocean, the East Indian Ocean, and the Chagos Archipelago. So you're going to see command failure in Diego, the West Indian Ocean. The only thing we can do here with our aircraft is perform cap. And the East Indian Ocean, which is up here. Where's the East Indian Ocean? It's down here. Don't really care. Down in this part of the world, the battle is pretty much over, so nothing really to pay attention to there. So in Sri Lanka, his carriers not only are covered by land-based air, but also he now has a storm over them, which keeps me from being able to attack them, as well as the Chagos Archipelago being, the whole area being shut down for any kind of aircraft purpose other than combat air patrol. So the Enterprise, the Lincoln, my inert aircraft are inert. So this is really a dead game day for me. We just kind of move around and stave off submarines. So not much to show here except for the losses. We lost Task Group 3, which was a bummer. And he lost submarines. So we'll continue on. Let's bring up the next map. All right, looking at this map here, we start with the next map. Now, understand this is actually game turns 16 and 17, all action segments 1 through 6 for both game turns. So, or game days, I should say. No, turns, excuse me. So, We went through 16 and 17 on this map and prepped for the night turn of game turn 18. So 12 action segments happened over the last, since the last map. What we do see is the Tiburon, Bay Ridge, and the Glacier Bay have all made it out to sea, giving me 30 points, victory points there. Great stuff. The Lincoln group is still doing well. There's no damage to any of my ships here, other than those, I should say, there's no new damage to any ships there. That's great stuff. You will see that Task Group 2 is gone. The Saudi Arabian fast frigates were subject to another air attack. Again, I was trying to chase down these submarines. We damaged the Sindbad earlier. I was trying to kill it. So I brought in my fast frigates to try and kill the sub. Did not kill it. And because we got local detects on us, the aircraft out of Ras Karma, the aircraft out of all of his bombers out of Iran here just came down and decimated my fast frigate Task Group 2. Task Group 1 still looks to be fully capable, but as I said, they now have a local detection marker on them as well. I'm going after peanuts here when I should have just brought these ships down to be underneath the veil of the Lincoln's air group, and then as they move back north to help defend the Enterprise, all these ships could have worked in tandem, and so been a really strong force to keep any of his surface vessels away, or even the remaining subs that he has. In truth, there's not much that the Soviets have at sea or the Indians have left at sea that are really going to stop me. It's down to just his aircraft, keeping his aircraft off of me. You know, don't get me wrong, he has his subs, but as you can see, we're down to just 3 subs here pestering the Lincoln group, and 1 sub left pestering the Enterprise group. So we've been doing a lot of sub hunting in the last 2 days, or 2 8-hour cycles here. So again, you talk about things that should do and shouldn't. I lost those 3 frigates. I have made this Task Group 1 now, Task Force 1 I should say, detected, and all for a 7 victory point sub here. It just wasn't wise to do it. So that's pretty much everything that happened over the last 6 action cycles here. Actually 12 action cycles, because it was game turn 16 and 17. Again, his subs are racing north out of the south here to get him some more strength to fight against. His task forces have moved away from land-based air support, but there's absolutely nothing I can do about it because all of my aircraft are grounded. Let's bring up the next map. Alright, we have a log file here for the onset of game turn 18, the night turn. Okay. I don't know who wins initiative. Let's find out. I want initiative. Okay, so we started a new game turn here, 18, and we do have a log file, so we're going to go through it real quickly. After unloading her charges there, the full tanker's going to sea, the Lincoln group moves back west to get to Task Force 1. My goal is to move that task force as under air cover as quickly as possible. So she moves 3, and I said, no, I'm going this way. No, I didn't do that. I went with that. Look at that. A lot of work for nothing. All right. Task Force 1 attacks the Sindbad. We already have a local detection on me. Might as well kill this sub. With a 6, that is a 4 result. The Sindbad is sunk. We pull that off the board, and that task group can move 4, but unfortunately, That's as close as I can get to that air cover, and that is going to be detrimental. Finally, the Enterprise moves again away from the ball cache. Man, I'm waffling back and forth down there. I should have just pushed through that carrier group. I didn't want to lose my carrier, but man, I should have just pushed through, had that sub attack, try to localize it, and kill it. Didn't do it though. Back and forth, moving around. And this moving ships, we're not going to worry about that stuff. Again, moving combat supply ships. Not really sure what the purpose of all this was, but fill time, I guess. Okay, man. Everybody, that's the end of that log file. So let's bring up the last part of Game Turn 18. All right, this is the final map for Game Turn 18. It probably shows on here that we are into Game Turn 19 with Game Turn 19 set up. A new day 2 would be Game Turn 6. Game Turn 7, I should say. Anyway, going down here, we're going to see Task Force 1. Huh. It's still there. It was hit. As you can see, there was 10 ships in this task force, maybe 9 total, but his bombers came in and hit the Task Force 1 and left me with just a bunch of patrol craft and the Italian Sagittario. The Italians were sunk. My subs again form a picket to make him have to work around to get to my carrier group. And down south here, we're far away from the ball cache. My other subs have made a picket and keeping the bow cache away. Nothing else really occurred over these last 6 cycles. Again, the task forces of the Indian, the Kiev, Indian remaining Vikrant force, and the Kiev are moving north, not under any air cover. But again, I don't have any. By the end of Game Turn 18, I still was under command failure, even though, well, they were in those zones under command failure. So even though those ships are open to attack, I had nothing to attack them with. And that's how Game Turn 18 ended. It's how Game Day 5 came to a conclusion. So as I say here, we start into the next day, and the setup is done for this one. So Game Turn 7 ended up clear skies and no command failure. Finally have the opportunity to do some things. But this is really, there's probably another, let me see here. I'm in the end of Game Turn 18. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 game saves left. And these 12 game saves are essentially the same as the last few game saves here, where we just kind of see everybody chasing after each other, trying to get that one last hit in. So, not with a bang, but to go out maybe with a whimper. Do all wars go out with a bang? I don't know. The excitement is usually in the main part of the conflict when both sides have the bulk of their forces and are clashing, and then, you know, by the end it just comes down to he who has the best force afterwards, you know, tries to get their objective. So my point in all this is I'm going to simply jump to the end here and bring this to a conclusion, because as much as I appreciate you guys watching my videos here, those that have enjoyed them, I don't want to subject you necessarily to watching the end of these last few dances here of ships moving around, the other trying to not be attacked, but at the same time trying to cause as much effect as possible. So let's bring up the last map. All right, and so we come to the conclusion of Scenario 12 of the Indian Ocean War. And it looks like this at the end. The Gulf of Aden, of course, is still contested air, still contested sea. There's no submarines in his uh, Gulf of Aden zone, which if I'd gotten the sub up in there would have been points for me. He does have Task Force 2 still sitting within Sumatra. And this was all of his reinforcement forces, his convoy, 5, 6, and 7. Yeah, I had sunk. The Callinan survived. I was hoping to kill that ship. But at the end, he never moved his convoy ships over here to Al-Jawari. Jawani, not Al-Jawani, just Jawani, or Chabahar. That was his goal for those ships. And he never left the bubble of his combat air patrols around Ras Karma. Denied himself 30 points of victory points, and that could have been a changer, a game changer in our final conclusion, because I was struggling to, at this point, because of the losses of my ships. I did a great job at getting most of my objective ships to their locations. All of them were the 1 multiple. I did not get any ships into the 1.5 or 2 point multiples for my game. All in all, I only lost 5 crit ships, 2 full tankers, and 2 empty tankers to submarines, and then the Titan, which never made it to Diego, again from submarines. So that was pretty good. I was real happy with the results of that. Not much left fighting-wise in the North Arabian, South Arabian, Gulf of Oman, West Indian Ocean here. South Arabian Sea Zone, North Arabian Sea Zones are empty. Only in the West Indian Ocean we see that I have a task force there, and that was the remnants of that task force 1 before moved, and I pulled some ships off of task force 2, the damaged ones, because at some point between the last map that I showed you and our final map here, the Lincoln and the Enterprise finally came close together, and we formed a super battle group here, super carrier battle group. 2 carriers, plenty of auxiliary ships to protect the HVTs, and finally the amphibious assault ships here, and maritime placement ships. So from the West Indian Ocean all the way over to the Laccadives, my 2 carrier groups were racing to get up here to Karachi, and not necessarily Karachi, actually Karangi. This 4127 was the hex that I needed to get to. There was nothing left in the ocean to. We eliminated all of his subs down to the Rykov and this Shankus diesel boat that was damaged. Everything else was eliminated. So we basically fought ourselves down to the last. Even the Cochrane survives here, although damaged. She survived. Turbulent survived. The Brits had one last ship on the board. I was happy with that. A couple of our ships sustained some damage. The Seawolf took a hit. Excuse me. And the Albany and the Miami, 2 heavy-duty Los Angeles class subs. That was a bummer to see those guys get hit, but they survived nonetheless. So how do things end here? We stopped at this point. This was game turn 29 and 30. Okay, on the map, 29 and 30. So we ended the day at 30. We started this new. We were about to start game turn 31, and understand that the scenario length goes to game turn 36. So in essence, we had 6 more action segments, or 6 more turns of action segments per. Okay, So why is this important? If you look in each action segment for game turn 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, I will get in each of these one ship movement, right? And my ships can move 3 because of the amphibious assaults. So all in all, by the time I get to this position here on the map, even though he's only got one submarine in the way, and although he does have 2 semi-strong task forces here, the Soviet Task Force 4 and Indian Task Force 1, which are still very good combat capable groups. The Russian one really strong. I'm not too worried about it because if he comes out of his air bubble, I would decimate him with aircraft. I would make sure I found him and decimate him. But the problem is I'm out of time. As we talked before, time management is essential for our game here, because at the end here, if we look at the distance, I am 18 hexes, and it's actually not even 18, because when you really count it out, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It's 18 hexes. I could have made it. I could have made it if I drove straight and true right to the Pakistani coast there. And let me confirm quick. Maybe it wasn't Karangi. I think it was Karachi. If I look here in the scenario outline, scenario 12, I needed to get to Karachi. So it was 18 hexes to the hex right outside of Karachi. Karachi was 19 hexes away, which means my amphibious assaults would never have made it to that hex in time by the 36th turn. So at that point, we were at a victory level of the Soviets had a marginal victory of 163. Okay. But if you look here, we still had 6 turns, which also would have given me 6 air activations. And I have, even though I'd never get those amphibs to the base, to the port there, I had Indian base, Mangalore, Belgium, Bangalore, all these air bases here. He had no way to defend them. So over the next 6 turns, I would have just ended up bombarding the hell out of his air bases, because for every air base I kill, I get 10 points. And all I needed to win to move our marginal was to kill one of them, and it would take me to 170 to take our total score of my kills to his kills, objectives, points, all that stuff. Would have taken the score to 173, which is an Allied marginal victory. So even though I did not get my last amphibs to the port of Karachi, it still would have been a win, even over, and we both conceded. He gave me the win because there was no way he could stop me from killing a base and getting the last 10 points that I needed to make it an Allied victory. And, he wasn't going to move his ships out of the way, and until I came up there to engage them, the most that could have happened is this Rykov could have come in and hit one of my ships. Quite possible. But how many would he have needed to kill for my aircraft? Because I could, if it wasn't for those, 10, 20, 30 points in air bases there, also have Pune here, that's 40 points of air bases. I could have kept bombarding over the next 6 turns with every aircraft I have on the map. The B-52s could have flown over. F-111s were both out of the Persian Gulf now. I think the Australians were up there now. So, acting as bombers, they could have flown 50 hexes. Um, not even to, we could have hit Shiraz here. And, all the Allied aircraft up in the Persian Gulf could have hit Shiraz and Bandar Khomeini. Wouldn't have mattered. 6 turns, I would have gotten enough points to push the even if his subs did hit me, I would have had enough points to push it over the envelope that I needed to make it an Allied victory. So again, he conceded. We called it an end. It was literally, I want to say, playing over vlogs and face-to-face, probably 2 months worth of combat with this game. It was a blast. I want to do it again. But it did come to a conclusion here. And there was, like I said, there was really no sense to continue through all of these last few game saves and make more videos of stuff that really had limited action, more movements and consolidations of forces and stuff like that, and sweeping up of the remainder of units. I think he should have brought these 2 task forces to bear, even though they didn't have air power. Probably would have been wise while he had the opportunity and I had limited to no air capability because of command failure or storms. He should have raced those ships closer either to the Enterprise or the Lincoln to try and decapitate one of my carrier groups. Instead, he moved them north to make them a blocking force around Pakistan. Still a great idea, but at this point in the game, they were too far out of position to give him any opportunity to threaten me. And I don't know what he would have done at that point. I had 2 carrier air wings. I mean, A6s, F-18s. Along the way, we got aircraft replenishment rolls. So by the end of it, I had 2 full strength. If we look here, the Lincoln had a full strength deck. The Enterprise had a full strength deck. I had a combat air patrol over this task force of 4 F-18 or F-14s, electronic warfare, and a Hawkeye, radar, early warning aircraft. He couldn't approach me with any bombers. It was a foregone conclusion. I think that except to, just race in and attack, in a brawler type of a move, it really came down to that. The strategic detection on Task Force 4 certainly limited his desire to move that aircraft out of his airspace there, but it could have been a potential changer. Then again, it might have gone south against him and might have moved me up the victory point scale further and might have turned this into, instead of a marginal victory, maybe we could have gotten a decisive victory. Probably not. I don't think I could have mustered the points at this point. So anyway, that is the end of our Scenario 12 Indian Ocean War gameplay. We end with having had a great time, but an Allied marginal victory. Nonetheless, I'll take it. A win is a win. I had a great time doing it too. I hate to see the stacks of losses here. There's a lot of U.S. and Allied ships that are gone. We lost a total of 3 carriers. Scott continues to tell me that although we got our victory, my commander would have been dismissed from from Allied command for losing the French and the British carriers as well as one of the U.S. carriers. But I don't know. I think we did pretty good. We killed 3 carriers for 3 carriers. Now, granted, those Virat, the Vikrant, and the Tbilisi, well, the Tbilisi for certain was a toe-to-toe match for the Lincoln or even the Enterprise or Ranger. That's for certain. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for giving time to these videos. I had a good time making them, and I had a good time discussing all the good and the bad of our combat here. Hopefully, this was was instructional enough that you guys will see some of the mistakes we made and avoid them. Um, Maybe you guys had better ideas that you would have done instead. Um, but like anything, it always comes down to the moment when we have to make our decision, which is the best way to go. And then, of course, make those decisions based on the successes of previous decisions. So, again, appreciate you guys for watching, and maybe we'll make another one here as soon as we do another battle. Take care.